the shocking pay gap. In 2023, Canelo Alvarez earned a guaranteed purse of over $40 million for a single fight. In that same year, a preliminary card fighter at a UFC Fight Night event earned a standard contract of $12,000 to show and another $12,000 to win. Both are elite professional athletes in combat sports, yet their paychecks exist in different universes. This isn't an accident, and it isn't just about popularity or pay-per-view buys. It is the direct result of two fundamentally different business models that govern how fighters are paid, how they negotiate, and who holds the power. To understand this massive pay gap, you first have to understand that boxing and the UFC are not the same business. They operate under completely different rules, and those rules determine everything. The Muhammad Ali Act, boxing's secret weapon. The core of this disparity isn't just about different promotions or different fan bases, it's about who holds the power in the relationship between fighter and promoter. The entire financial structure of boxing was shaped by a single piece of United States federal law, a law that does not apply to mixed martial arts. The Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act, passed in the year 2000, was designed to protect boxers from exploitation by unscrupulous promoters. It legally separates the roles of promoter and manager, preventing conflicts of interest. But most importantly, it prevents promoters from having a coercive, exclusive hold over a fighter's career. This means a boxer is essentially a free agent for every single fight, able to work with any promoter, Top Rank, Matchroom Boxing, Premier Boxing Champions, who offers the best deal. This competition between promoters to sign the biggest stars for the biggest fights is what drives boxer purses into the tens of millions. When multiple promoters are bidding for the same fighter, the price goes up. It's basic economics. And it's the reason why a top-tier boxer has leverage that a UFC fighter can only dream of. The UFC Monopoly Model. So if boxing has a law-forcing competition and protecting fighters, what does the UFC have? The answer is the opposite, a near monopoly. The UFC operates like a traditional sports league, such as the National Football League or the National Basketball Association, where the league is the sole employer. Fighters sign exclusive, multi-fight contracts that prevent them from competing anywhere else. If you are under contract with the UFC, you cannot fight for Bellator, for the Professional Fighters League, or for any other organization. The UFC is the promoter, the league, and the paymaster all in one. With no major competitors to bid up fighter salaries, the UFC has the power to set the market rate for its athletes. This structure is the primary reason why the UFC can retain a staggering 80 to 85% of its revenue, a figure that would be unthinkable in boxing, where the fighters typically take home 50 to 70% of the total revenue. But the revenue split is only the first part of the story. The real magic for boxing's biggest stars happens with a single phrase written into their contract. Pay-per-view points, the real money. When a star boxer like Canelo Alvarez, Tyson Fury, or Gervonta Davis headlines a major event, their contract doesn't just include a guaranteed purse, it includes a percentage of the pay-per-view revenue. This percentage can be massive, often ranging from 50% to 70% of the profits generated from buys. This is their reward for being the main draw, the reason people are paying $79.99 to watch the event. In the UFC, only a handful of champions and megastars get pay-per-view points, and it's a much smaller tiered system. A UFC champion might get $1 for every buy between $200,000 and $400,000, $2 for every buy between $400,000 and $600,000, and so on. A boxer, on the other hand, gets a direct percentage of the entire pot from the first buy to the last. This is how their earnings can swell from a $40 million guarantee to over $100 million for a single night's work. When Floyd Mayweather fought Manny Pacquiao in 2015, the fight generated 4.6 million pay-per-view buys. Mayweather's share of the revenue was estimated to be over $250 million. That is the power of pay-per-view points in boxing. The sponsorship stranglehold. Beyond the fight purse itself is the world of sponsorships, and here the difference is just as stark. When you watch a boxing match, the fighters' shorts are covered in logos, from beer companies to car manufacturers to regional businesses. These are individual sponsorship deals negotiated by the fighter and their management team, and they can be worth millions of dollars per fight. Boxers have the freedom to represent any brand they choose, and the biggest stars can command sponsorship deals that rival their fight purses. This all changed for UFC fighters in 2015 with the introduction of the Reebok uniform deal, which has since been replaced by the Venom deal. The UFC created a mandatory uniform, and in doing so, it took control of all sponsorship money, which it then doles out in a tiered payment system based on a fighter's tenure with the organization. A UFC champion might only receive $42,000 in sponsorship pay from the UFC's deal for a single fight, whereas a boxer of similar status could earn millions from their own endorsements. This represents another massive revenue stream that UFC fighters have lost, all in the name of a clean and professional look. The Francis Ngannou Case Study. There is no better case study for this financial disparity than Francis Ngannou. As the reigning UFC heavyweight champion, Ngannou was one of the most feared men in the sport, a knockout artist with devastating power. But he was unhappy with his contract, his lack of freedom, and the UFC's refusal to offer him a more lucrative deal. He chose to vacate his title and walk away from the UFC, a move many experts called career suicide. He then signed a deal to fight heavyweight boxer Tyson Fury in a boxing match under a new promotional deal. For that single fight, a fight he was expected to lose badly, Francis Ngannou earned a reported purse of over $10 million, with some estimates putting it closer to $20 million when all bonuses and pay-per-view points were included. That single payday was more than he had earned in his entire 14-fight UFC career combined, including his championship victories. Ngannou's story proves that the most lucrative path for a combat sports athlete isn't necessarily to be the best fighter, but to be in the best business position. He left the UFC, fought in boxing, and made generational wealth in a single night. Why this system persists. So why does this system persist? Why don't UFC fighters unionize or demand better pay? The answer is complicated. The UFC has been very effective at preventing unionization efforts, and fighters are often hesitant to speak out for fear of being cut or blackballed. Additionally, the UFC has a deep roster of talent, meaning that if one fighter demands too much, there are 10 others willing to take their place for less money. In boxing, a promoter cannot afford to lose a star because that star can simply go to a competitor. In the UFC, the organization holds all the cards. Until there is a serious competitor to the UFC or until fighters successfully organize, this pay disparity will continue to exist.